Welcome to Screen Time. Movies, streaming, and everything in between, including booze. Okay. Now, I found this at the liquor store the other day. Drew Yanno, my colleague, what did they call Robert Duvall? The consigliere? My consigliere, my writing partner. This is Francis Ford Coppola's director's cut, Pinot Noir. Okay. So, I wish Drew was here because he could drink it since I don't drink. But it's all about the Godfather and the offer. So we have Francis's wine here for us. So Drew is really excited to talk about this, and so am I, because Drew, you called me and you told me about the offer on Paramount. What we're going to do today, we're going to talk about the offer, and then we're going to talk about the movie the offer's about, The Godfather. But when you first saw the offer on Paramount, you were really blown away.
Yeah, I should edit that a little bit because I almost didn't keep watching it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw the first episode, and it's all about Albert Ruddy, who was the producer. And in the first episode, like, everything came easy to the guy. He was working at the Rand Corporation, and he was good at it, but he hated it. And he was in LA, and he had a friend who was in the movie business, and he went to a party, and he said, "Boy, I'd like to get into the movie business," because the guy was talking some TV series he was pitching. And then he said, "I could do that." And then he somehow angled a meeting with, some studio execs, and he pitched what became Hogan's Heroes. And that was, easy. He got that. And then he sort of walked on the lot at Paramount and, ran into Bob Evans, or tracked down Bob Evans and talked his way into, working with him. And it was like, as you know, first of all, life doesn't work like that. Second of all, and in movies, you don't want it to work like that. You want your main character to have to work at it, have to be a challenge. And I'm like, Jesus, if it's going to be like this the whole time, where this is going to be some, tribute to Albert Ruddy, and everything was easy, and he made The Godfather, I'm not going to be interested. But I thought, it's The Godfather. I got to watch it. I heard it's good. So I kept watching. And then I started to like it, because after that, everything's a challenge. And
right,
that's what makes it interesting.
Well, I agree with you. And we hadn't discussed this, but as you watch it, if you haven't watched it on Paramount Plus, you really should, because I think Paramount Plus is doing a great job. They are leaping into the game big time.
Yep.
Right. With 1883, with The Offer. So far, they're playing catch up pretty good. I'm not going to say they're Netflix or HBO Max or Apple yet, but they're in the game. They're definitely in the game. So the one thing that I thought was a jump was they're in the room, and he's with his writing buddy, who he met at a party, right, at the chateau, right, and the owner of the chateau becomes his love interest for probably half of the series.
Well, that was the other easy thing. He befriends and beds this beautiful woman who owns the hotel.
Right.
I wish my life was that easy.
Well, I think they wanted to give us the background, and they wanted to get going. And I agree with you. The part that I had a problem with at the beginning is they're in the room and they pitch the show, and it bombed. The pitch is dying. And the guy at the head of the table, the studio exec, the studio head, who I think it was CBS at the time, said, "You got anything else?" And then out of nowhere, he pulls out the exact plot for Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah.
Right. And then they buy it. Fine. So we're beyond that. So once it gets going, you tell me, Drew, because you were involved in Hollywood. I mean, when did you sell No Safe Haven?
Way back in the 90s.
Right. But I mean, that was also a time, even in the 90s, you could go into a room and pitch an idea.
Oh, I pitched.
Yeah,
but I was terrible at it, but I pitched.
But that doesn't really happen anymore. So the part that I thought, the way he ran into Robert Evans, and he made his way out of the lot, I kind of bought that, because I think from what I understand about Hollywood in the late 60s, early 70s, it was kind of a small town, and that's kind of the way it worked, right?
You got to get through that gate, though, and I guess he had his way of getting through the gate.
Because he was Hogan's Heroes guy.
Hogan's Heroes. But, you can't just walk into you can walk into somebody's office and then they'll throw you out.
Right.
That was my experience. I didn't get thrown out, but I knew they had to know you were coming. Didn't just,
So anyways, we get going on The Offer. And what I think the interesting take on this series is it is, you see everything but what happens on camera in The Godfather. I mean, for example, as they're going through the challenges, and we'll discuss the challenges in getting the movie getting the movie made. What I found interesting is, for example, when they shot the famous scene in which Al Pacino, Michael Corleone, goes and gets the gun in the bathroom and comes out and assassinates the two guys in the restaurant, the crooked cop and the other guy. They don't show that. They show the reaction of the director and of the producer and everybody sitting in the chairs and the crew, which I thought was fascinating. I thought it was a great idea.
Well, you have to do it that way because otherwise everybody's seen the real thing. So
right, but
you want to know what happened behind it.
I thought it was really creative the way they did it, though. It's like if you've seen The Godfather, you know what Michael does, and you know that he's coming on, he's bringing out the gun, he's going to pop these two guys, and you know what's happening, but you're watching their reaction. You're watching Ruddy's reaction. You're watching Coppola's reaction. You know, you're watching Puzo's reaction. I thought it was a great choice. I thought it was a really great choice.
And remember what else they did is they set up Pacino as, number one, they didn't want him, but let's leave that for later. But, he was afraid. He didn't know how to act. And Coppola was telling him, you'll be fine. You can do this. Don't worry. And then just before the scene, he tells the prop guy to put the gun up higher.
Right.
So that when he goes in, he can't find it. And, I just watched The Godfather the other day for this. And, he really is struggling to find the damn thing. And it's perfect because he didn't know he was going to have to do that. He's doing it because Coppola set him up. And, that kind of stuff, that's the kind of stuff that makes this interesting. And you could probably do it for any movie, but it wouldn't be that interesting because the movies aren't that great. It's a handful that you can do it for, maybe more than that, but still, that's the beauty of this is how they did everything. And it goes all the way back to, they buy the rights to the book and Gulf and Western doesn't want to make the movie, even though it's almost a guaranteed hit because everybody who read the book is going to watch the movie.
But they also felt that mafia movies or mob movies were not well done. And
Yes.
before we get to how Coppola positioned it and sold it brilliantly, I want to stick on Pacino for a minute. And actually, I saw the Today Show did a reunion of The Godfather, and he was like, I was fired a number of times. Pacino said, like, I was on my way out a number of times. And what was interesting is that Coppola said, we got to move that scene up to like the second day of shooting. The scene where he gets the gun and he assassinates the two guys in a restaurant. He said, we have to show the suits that Michael can be a killer.
Yeah, they had to show Bluthorn that scene, right?
Yeah.
And Colin Hanks, Lapidus, or however you pronounce it. Yeah.
Yeah, Lapidus. Yeah. Lapidus. And the cast was great. But that I never knew that. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah.
That he had to do that. But I mean, your point about they didn't think mob movies were going to work or mafia movies, and Coppola kept saying, and what you see in The Offer is it's about family. It's about family, and that's why the food. Remember, he said, you run in The Offer, we need a real stove.
Yeah, we need a real kitchen.
Why do we really need a real kitchen? It's going to cost us more money. We're already over budget as it is, right?
Yeah.
And he said, I need a real kitchen.
Yeah. I mean, I'm Italian. It's Italian. You say Italian, you think kitchen and your food. I mean, so yeah, all that stuff was interesting. What made it most interesting to me, and I realized something when I watched it, is I love origin stories as much as I love the stories themselves. In other words, how did something get made? Whether it's a piece of art or a movie or somebody wrote a song, whatever it is, I find that always fascinating, the whole thing of the creative process. And, you can do it with any movie, like I said, and there's, a lot of examples, great examples like Cool Hand Luke and Rocky and Good Will Hunting, where, the story of making the movie is as interesting as the movie itself half the time. It's just, and that's what was the case here, especially since it's based on a best-selling book. And, my reaction, I'm sure everybody else's reaction when they saw The Godfather was, this is a great movie. And you never gave a thought to the idea that they might not have made it. Because why wouldn't you make it? Look at this. Why would you not make this? And, that's fascinating to me. And it happens every time. The movie business, it's getting a movie made is miraculous.
Well, what was interesting about this is Ruddy had a movie that bombed. I mean, he had a movie that bombed, and they basically gave him The Godfather, right? He had the movie with Robert Redford. Remember, they showed.
Oh, yeah.
He goes to the set of Butch Cassidy, a Sundance Kid. He gets Redford to do this movie. That movie bombs. They go, all right, Ruddy, you want a chance? Here, take The Godfather. No one knows what to do with it. And it was a small budget. And then the whole thing is when he wanted Puzo to write it with to write it with Coppola, and the studio said, you can never have a novelist write a screenplay, and then I don't know, this was probably a little over the top. So he puts Puzo up in a villa with a pool, and the guy has writer's block, and he goes over there, and Puzo's in the pool eating pasta in a bowl, sitting on a floaty, like, I don't know what to do.
You do wonder, I mean, and we've talked about this, Hollywood.
Oh, there's embellishment.
Exaggerates and fictionalizes real life whenever you see a story based on, or as this was based on the experiences of Albert Ruddy. I wonder how much was like really true, really like to the.
Well, okay, let's get to the core of the matter. And by the way, to give credit to the cast, Giovanni Ribisi plays Joe Colombo, right?
Fantastic.
And phenomenal. And Dan Fogler plays Francis Ford Coppola. Bern Gorman plays Bluthorn. Colin Hanks is Lapides. He plays the bad guy. Hanks is phenomenal in this.
Matthew Good as
Robert Evans he's got to win an award. Matthew Good as Evans has to win an award. Patrick Gallo as Mario Puzo was phenomenal. Yeah. But the fact that I guess what I'm trying to say is Miles Teller's character, Ruddy, just so many times could have lost this gig.
Yeah.
And then the mob wants to shut it down.
And so many times he could have made the wrong choice and given in, and had someone else play the Godfather, have someone else play Michael, Well,
what do you think about the mob thing? I mean, because we all know, we'll get to Brando in a minute, but we all know that I had never heard of this part. I mean, basically, the mob heard this movie was out there and said, if you make this, we're going to kill you. I mean,
Well, essentially, yes.
Essentially,
I knew the mob wasn't happy. I remember that. I didn't know until I saw this that the word mafia was never used in the movie, which I love. I'm glad it wasn't. It made it confirmed and affirmed Coppola saying this is about family, right? And I thought that was fantastic. Ruddy's friendship with Columbo, was it as above board as they showed it in the thing? I don't know. Was it true to life? Was he that close to the guy? Was Columbo that agreeable? I mean, I don't know. These are the things you don't know. You hope it's true.
But he had to come to terms with this somehow, because I watched Ruddy, the actual Albert Ruddy, after the fact, in the interviews after each episode, and he said he was good friends with him. He became good. He said he became good friends with him. So he had to convince him that this was about family and this was going to be good for everyone.
Yeah,
which that's hard to do, man. I mean, that he must have done, and that's tough to do. And it's one of the great pieces of cinema of all time. And I don't think of it as even though it is, but I don't think of it as a violent movie. I think it is. I don't. But I mean, they cut a horse's head off and put it in a guy's bed. I mean, they blow Sonny away at the toll booth. But when Coppola kept saying it's about family. I mean, when you see Michael go to the Don in the hospital, I'm with you, Pop.
Yeah, that's the turning point right there.
But
that's literally the turning point.
anybody who's been in a family knows what that means, right?
And here's the interesting thing from a screenwriting perspective, you know, your hero is supposed to be someone you can root for and all this stuff. And you're thinking, well, you know, I've had this discussion in my class. I used to talk about it. You know, why is The Godfather so popular when the lead character, and it doesn't matter whether you think it's, you know, Brando or Pacino, you know, Vito or Michael, if they're criminals who kill, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they engage in other criminal activity. We shouldn't like this. And what you come to realize, and this happened with Scarface as well, speaking of Pacino, the audience just has to understand the main character and what their motive is. And like, that's where Coppola had it. It's about family. Everybody can understand family and what you'll do for family. And it's about the American dream also, because they're immigrants, just like Scarface. It's about the American dream. So everybody understands the American dream. Everybody understands family. And, you know, I think part of the reason maybe Gulf and Western didn't want to make it is they're thinking, this is about the mob. They kill people. How is anybody going to cheer for them? You know, we want John Wayne, you know, riding off into the sunset, saving the town.
Supposed to be here now.
I'm Michael Corleone. This is my father. There's nobody here. What happened to the guards?
Your father just has to-
This is what I think proved it could, you know, you could have a movie like this as long as the audience could understand the motives and at least in some way, you know, go along with those motives.
Well, I think it's also reaffirmed in Godfather 2, which Ruddy didn't take part in, which was interesting, where you get the backstory with Robert De Niro, you know, playing the Don and Don Corleone, and he tries to be honest and he tries to be a legitimate businessman, and he just can't do it.
Yeah.
And then he finds his way and he gets into kind of running life with a sense of integrity. I mean, I know that's kind of strange, but there's a code.
Well, he has his own value system.
He has his own value
Stick
system.
to it.
Yeah, and that's it. And you know, and it's the code. What did you think as Lou Ferrigno as at opening up the offer, opening up the movie? I forgot the character's name when he goes to the when he goes to the Don.
Rossi.
Yeah, that's the wedding scene.
Yeah, and he reads it, and you watch the movie. It's great because you know he repeats himself, and you just know he's just this big dumb guy who's so awed by and afraid of the Don, and he wants to not screw this up.
Right.
And he's, you know, honored that he's been invited. I loved it. I thought it was good. I thought Ferrigno did a good job.
How about Anthony Ippolito playing Pacino? I thought he was nails. I thought he was fantastic.
Yeah, I wonder about the accent. I mean, he must have studied how Pacino talks, especially then.
You know what I think? This is my guess. I think that he just always did it. He's an actor. I mean, actors if you watch Swingers, right? All the actors are hanging around. They're all impersonating actors. They're all trying to do it. I bet you any money that guy used to watch Pacino and just imitate him.
Yeah, probably. He did a good job, though. Like you said,
he was great.
But the fascinating thing is they didn't want Pacino, and of course he was a nobody. I mean, he was somebody on. On Broadway.
Jimmy Caan. Remember they said put Jimmy Caan in there.
It would have been horrible.
Oh, here's the other thing I want to point out, which I hope it happened as an actor. I hope it happened. The dinner scene of the cast, right? So
I appreciate having the whole family together for my birthday. Many things happen in life. Celebrations, tragedies, births, deaths. But through it all, what's right here is what's important. Family.
May you live forever.
Salud!
the dinner scene of the cast, everybody's they get the green light, they get the money, the thing is going, they've got, you know, the mafia's on board, they got Joe Colombo giving them protection and ready to go. So Coppola has the cast with Brando, played by Justin Chambers from Grey's Anatomy, sitting at the head of the table, and it's a meal. And Brando starts doing it in character.
Yeah.
And when the waiter goes to serve him, he goes, "No, serve your mother." Yeah. And he goes to serve, you know, the mother across the table. And then the guy playing Jimmy Caan starts acting like Jimmy, and everybody is in character.
Yeah.
And
Great
Brando,
scene.
it's a great scene. And Coppola and Puzo and Ruddy just start looking around, and they're like, "Oh my God, we got something here."
Yeah.
It's a great scene. I hope that happened.
Yeah. Again, that's how I feel about most of it. Look, I loved it. You know, let's be honest, The Godfather, you know, if you're going to talk about the greatest movie of all time, it's in the conversation for sure. It's, you know, it's somewhere in the top 5 or 10 that people are going to talk about. And to see, hopefully, an honest depiction of how it was made, how it got to be made, was fabulous. And you know, just interesting. The characters themselves were just as interesting as the ones.
Oh yeah.
That,
well, let's go down the cast real quick. Like, okay, Matthew Good, who played Robert Evans, who's I think should get nominated because he had his shit together at the beginning. He's losing grip of the studio. He's out of his mind. He, you know,
loses his relationship with Ali McGraw.
Loses his relationship with Ali McGraw. He's all coked up. He's all strung out, and then he comes back and he gets in a fight with Ruddy, and he comes back around again, and they're together again to go to like the premiere. I mean, fantastic. Juno Temple from Ted Lasso as Betty McCart, who played Ruddy's assistant, who eventually, I mean, you knew this, but
became a huge agent.
Huge agent. George Clooney. I mean, she had all the biggies. She was I thought she was fantastic in this.
Yep.
And it was great that she didn't sleep with Ruddy.
Yeah, I was worried about that.
And they didn't go there.
Again, we hope that's true.
What did you think of Justin Chambers, the guy from Grey's Anatomy, as Brando?
I thought he did a really nice job. I mean, talk about a tall task. You know, you got to play Brando. I thought he did a nice job. I liked all of it. I liked all the acting. I really enjoyed it. I couldn't wait to see the next episode. As I said, after the first one, it's like, oh man, don't make this like this, where it's just so easy to make this movie. You're just going to go through the rote of making the movie. And then, you know, did they really get shot at? Did they really blow out the back window when he's in the car with Betty? You know, Ruddy, did that really happen? In a way, I hope it did, because it makes it even more interesting. Well, and if it's just, you know, sort of an exaggeration of a threat, then fine, I suppose. But, you know, again, the origin stories just are fascinating to me because it's so hard to do anything good.
Right.
It
also goes to show, like, you know, a screenwriter told me this. He was working on Survivor's Remorse. He said, and it's so true. He goes, there's not many things that can go right in a film.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot that can go wrong.
He goes, there's a shitload that can go wrong. And you got to be a little lucky. Let's face it. I mean, when you get into the editing room, then sometimes you got to do damage control, and you got to get lucky. And
well, I think Ruddy sticking to his guns, no pun intended, you know, about the decisions he wanted to, you know, support and make sure that, you know, Pacino, for one, you know, going to Sicily, all that stuff, you know, that's how good shit gets done.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing I want to. Teller was great, by the way. I thought Teller was fantastic. Great. They didn't have the money to go to Sicily. They wanted to shoot on the back lot.
Yeah.
And it would have been a disaster, because when you watch the film now, even though there was 4 of them in a mini car driving around Sicily, like shooting, where they went to the town. No, we can't go here. We're going to go to another town. You know, I can't imagine not having the real location.
Well, you can't recreate the villages and the scenery that they went through in California or anywhere in America. It's not going to look like that. It's not that, well, the ground is that old, but the buildings sure as hell aren't.
Oh no.
It'd be hard to, you know, do that. It was just, like, again, he fought for all that stuff. That's what made it interesting.
Here's my pick, my final thought on this, and you may have another. I think in every film or any series, there's that one character or that one actor that if you pulled him out, it wouldn't be nearly as good. And it was Hanks. It was Colin Hanks as basically the bean counter asshole. That's what he was. Barry Lapidus. He was
He was the opposing force.
He was, but you know as well as I do, you got to have a good bad guy.
Yeah.
And he was a great, and he's such he's Tom Hanks' son. I've seen him in movies. He always plays the nice guy, right? He is so freaking good in this, Drew. I think he's the key to the series.
Well, I don't know if I'd go that far, but I'll tell you this. He was also right. In other words, anybody who's not an artist and a businessman will agree with him, all the things he said in the film, right? So it just goes to show you how you bump up business, commerce and art. And it doesn't blend well, but when it does, it's great. And, The Godfather is an example of that.
Okay, who is your favorite character in The Offer? The favorite actor? Would you go with Teller or Good, or if you got to pick one?
I like Teller, Good, and Ribisi. I'd have to put Teller first. Someone described him as kind of a modern day Bogart, and I wouldn't have said that about him prior to this.
Yeah, no.
I saw Top Gun, Maverick. He's okay. I saw, Whiplash.
He's a kid in Whiplash. He's a kid in Whiplash.
Exactly. He's good and all that stuff. But this, he really, he reminded me of, the 40s and 50s kind of actor. And so I got to give it to him.
Well, he was in Bleed for this, right? He played Vinny Paz.
Yeah, he played Vinny Paz.
And then I thought, because I was there. I played the sportscaster that interviews Ted Levine coming out of the tunnel, but I saw him from a distance, and from what I understand on Bleed for this, the kid worked his ass off, worked out, dieted, shredded, worked, but he just couldn't deliver to me that edge, that Vinny Paz had, that edge that you needed, that damaged edge. He just had. I thought his facial features were just too soft. It's almost like he needed surgery to do it.
Yeah.
I think after this movie right now, he's the new genre or the new herd of leading men.
Well, and, Top Gun's not going to hurt him, even though I don't think it was it was a good role and all that stuff.
Yeah, but not like
it wasn't
this.
As much of a challenge to me as what he did in this. He really, I got lost in the character.
Totally.
I didn't think of him as an actor. I just thought I was watching Al Ruddy.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. Anyways, it's The Offer on
Paramount Plus.
Thank you. I almost said Amazon. I can't lose track. Paramount Plus. Check it out. Now, Drew, that brings us to The Godfather, and we're only going to do the first one because Ruddy did not sign on for The Godfather 2. For those who have watched The Offer, have seen it. He decided to do The Longest Yard, but Al Ruddy also went on to produce $1 Million Baby later on. So he had a string of hits. He had an unbelievable career. So The Godfather, just as a film, and I don't know if you want to make a connection to what we've just seen, but I'm going to let you take the lead on this because you're much more astute with it than I am.
I've just, I revisited it. It holds up. You realize just how great it is every time you see it because you see something new. And I never read the book, which is unusual for me. Usually I read the book, right? I just think it's a masterpiece.
Do you want to read the book now?
No, I don't know, but it's a masterpiece. And you see why people are kind of surprised that there was a struggle to make it because look, it's a masterpiece and it comes from a book that was a bestseller. Why wouldn't you do it? The acting is fabulous. The story is great. You talk about the scene where he goes to the hospital, Michael goes to the hospital and there's no guards there. And he says, I'm here. And then he gets the guy to, with the flowers to stand out and pretend he has a gun in his jacket. All that kind of stuff is just great. And then he gets punched out by Sterling Hayden playing the crooked cop. Just everything. They use the best parts. They also agreed not to do a lot of Sinatra stuff because Sinatra was pissed.
Right. That's another thing in The Offer that's illustrated. Yeah.
I think he's in it 3 times. They don't beat him up too much, except Vito Corleone beats him up for a second or two when he starts crying.
Godfather, I don't know what to do.
You can act like a man. What's the matter with you? Is this how you turn out a Hollywood Pinocchio that cries like a woman? What can I do? What can I do? What is that nonsense?
Right.
I need help. So all that stuff is, it's just a great movie. And every time I see Godfather 2, I say, oh, I think Godfather 2 might be better. Then I see Godfather 1 and I go, no, Godfather 1's better. So
I know. And Godfather 3, we don't need to discuss.
No, I won't even go.
No, that was to finance the wine. He needed to finance the wine. Talia Shire, interesting choice how he cast his sister. And like The Offer, I don't think there was a casting mistake in The Offer.
Hello?
When I look at The Offer I wrote down everybody in the cast. I don't think there was. I think. By the way, I want to. John Papsadera is the casting director of The Offer, and that dude needs credit. I mean, He also did Memento and Inception. He's brilliant. They did not make one mistake in the casting of The Offer. Abe Vigoda is in The Godfather, for God's sakes. Fish from Barney Miller.
Yep. Can
you imagine anybody else but Talia Shire, Abe Vigoda, anybody, Jimmy Caan?
No.
That's it. Break it all, you spoiled guinea brat. Break it all.
I can't imagine anybody else in those roles.
Duval, perfect, because he doesn't look Italian, but he's the adopted son, right? It's great. Not formally adopted, of course.
Right. But I mean, and for Talia Shire, there was a lot of pressure on her too, and I think she kind of felt like the outsider a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to stand up to all those actors, So, but she did a good job. One of my favorite scenes in The Offer is when they showed the Jimmy Caan scene beating up Carlo with the garbage can. He actually got him pretty good.
He hit him for real.
Now, when you watch The Godfather, you'll see he pulls a punch. He misses the guy by 6 inches. We're supposed to, and the guy reacts like he got hit. The actor playing Carlo. But I like that scene.
Drew, anything else? Any other thoughts on The Godfather before?
I encourage people to see it if you like the idea of, and I think you should, how things get made. Here's a great example of how something great got made and how difficult it was to do. And when you've got this inside you, you've seen the movie so many times, and then you see that and you go, wow, holy shit, I didn't think there would be any issue making this movie. Of course, they're going to go to Sicily, all that stuff, right?
Right.
So, of course, they're going to cast Pacino. Who else would you put in there? And, I encourage people to see it for that alone.
The other story I love is, I just thought of it. Sylvester Stallone couldn't even get in as an extra. That's a sidebar. He told that story once. He said, I tried to get in as an extra in The Godfather and I couldn't get in. I couldn't.
Well, he's not Italian enough. That's for sure.
Not Italian enough. Which I talked to you before. My son and I, we watched Goodfellas. Goodfellas is not The Godfather.
No,
it's not The Godfather, but it's Pesci and De Niro. Just those two guys, are amazing. And De Niro coming into, that's another thing. De Niro comes into The Godfather 2 and just absolutely destroys. Just crushes it.
Yeah.
But Al Runny went on and did The Longest Yard with Burt Reynolds. Not close, right, Drew? Not close.
It's a good movie. If you think about it, it's a sports movie. It's Burt Reynolds. I think it's post Deliverance.
Yeah, it was probably a commercial hit, but it wasn't an artistic hit.
No, but he wanted to make it, so
And he wrote it. Good for him. All right, he is Drew Yanno. We will talk to you again next week. Right here on Screen Time, movies, streaming, and everything in between. I'm Gary Tanguay. See you later.